All right, guys, welcome back to Black Cat Crypto Club. I have some bad news, guys. Last night, as it turns out, the government, Trump, signed an executive order, and we now have a Bitcoin national reserve. Not only that, but we have a digital assets stockpile. So guys, sorry to say, but horrible news. Pack it up, pack it in, shut off the miners, turn off the lights. It's time to do what Peter Schiff said we should all do as Bitcoiners. And we've got to go move back in with our parents and live in their basement. Unreal, guys. We've got the National Reserve, and guys, I was optimistic about this. I didn't think it would be happening last night. We have the crypto summit coming up tomorrow or today now, and I kind of thought this whole summit thing would be a whole another nothing burger and nothing would really come out of it. Instead, the night before the crypto summit, we have an executive order forming a Bitcoin National Reserve and a separate digital assets stockpile. So we're going to get into all of that, guys. It's insane, the things that are going on right now. So this is going to be a fun episode. But before we do that, guys, it is a new month, first episode of the new month. And I have a brand new animal sanctuary that you guys can help out if you choose to. Really appreciated. But I will leave the link to this homepage. Yeah, we've got black kitties, black kitties that were taken in, obviously abused or neglected or abandoned. So fits with the Black Cat Crypto Club theme, as always. But yeah, I will leave a link to this homepage in the description of all of my videos this month. If you can see right here, they've got a little donate tab. You click on that and you've got their PayPal right here. You've got their Venmo and you've got their Cash App. Now, I do want to read a little bit about this. It says, donate to the sanctuary. We operate solely on donations and our own funds. No donation is too big or too small. It all adds up. Also, you do not have to donate money. Some of our donors have donated products, so I will list some of the stuff that we are always in need of. Apparently, they don't have an Amazon wish list, which would be, I recommend that to these guys. But, they've got, Tractor Supply, Chewy, Lowe's, and Home Depot gift cards that you can send, garden hose, stall fans, medical supplies for animals, rakes, pitchforks, shovels. All of this is something you could get onto Amazon and buy and send them if you choose to do that, or you can just, donate a few bucks through Venmo or PayPal, Cash App. Always in need of food. But right down here, guys, it says, because we are a 501c3 nonprofit, donations are tax deductible. So help yourself out, help these guys out. Again, all of the sanctuaries that I bring you guys are really, really small sanctuaries. So like it says right here in this little blurb, no donation is too small. So go over and help them out. Always appreciated on my end. Something that means a lot to me. These guys are doing some really good work with all of these animals. You can go over and check out their pics of their animals and everything. See what they're doing. Just awesome sanctuary. So go help them out. Okay, so getting back to the issue at hand. We are going to kind of run through some of the news this week. So technically this is still kind of a Friday weekly recap, but largely the biggest and largest news is this Bitcoin strategic national reserve. So we are going to focus in on that, guys. Before we get into any of it, I do want to jump over and just show you guys the 1-minute video of Trump signing this thing. So listen up. I've got the volume on all of this turned up as high as I can, but it still comes in a little bit quieter than my mic. So if you need to turn up your volume, listen in.
Today we're signing, and this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value, because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And they made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see there, you know, I don't know if Trump is, he comes off in this video as, you know, kind of, I don't know. I hate to say dumb, but, you know, he asked a few questions. So this is something you believe in, as if it wasn't really his idea. I think this might just kind of be the format of how executive orders are presented to him and how he kind of responds to these things. But honestly, this isn't, you know, Trump promised this back in his campaign, but, you know, let's be real. Trump isn't like a Bitcoin mastermind. You know, he's said some really dumb things concerning Bitcoin. Even once he's been pro Bitcoin, he's said some stupid things at Bitcoin conference. He said, "You Bitcoiners have fun, you know, over in your corner playing with your Bitcoin." He's suggested that we're going to pay off the national debt by writing a little Bitcoin check. You know, so things like that. Like, he's pro Bitcoin. He's apparently pro Bitcoin now. He's appointed some of the smartest Bitcoiners to be, I think, almost every single, I can't think of a cabinet seat that is not filled with a pro Bitcoiner. And so this is why I've been hopeful since the inauguration and all of these appointments that we will still see a pro crypto legislation and administration. And this just absolutely proves it. Now, when this came out last night, I actually noticed the price before the news. All of a sudden, within 10 minutes, we dropped $5,000. And so I got on and was like, what's going on? What's the news? And this is the news. This is the most bullish thing that we have seen all year for Bitcoin, and people are selling this. It blows my mind. Now, I got on and was kind of looking like through why are people selling this? Did the government screw it up? Which honestly wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me. And there's a million ways that these guys could screw this whole thing up. And I got on and I read through what this executive order. I read the executive order, and it's just it's good. It goes through. Actually, let's get over to this page. So this is the actual executive order right here. I will leave this link in the description. I think it's like the third thing under the credit section in the description of this video. So if you haven't read this already, go over and read this. But basically what this thing says is that, well, they're creating two things. They're creating a Bitcoin national reserve, and they're creating a digital assets stockpile. Now, the Bitcoin National Reserve obviously only has Bitcoin in it. Also of note in that is that he is tasking Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick, who we've shown videos of in my past videos, showing how much of Bitcoin bulls they are. They're also in charge of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Now, that'll be important in a minute when we talk about some things that about this, how this is going to be funded. But it says, that Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick are tasked with finding new ways that we can buy more Bitcoin with what is it? Budget neutral funds. So they're not going to print a bunch of money to buy Bitcoin. They're not going to use taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin, which I think everybody can agree with. We don't want to inflate the dollar even more. I mean, maybe some of us would want that because, it's going to pump our bags. But guys, think about your families. I mean, my family, I made this channel specifically a year ago. In fact, last Friday was my 1 year mark. Woo! Happy birthday, Black Kitties. It was my 1 year mark last Friday of this channel. And I made this channel for my friends and family to hopefully educate everybody on why it is so important to get off zero, just have some Bitcoin, and why the Federal Reserve and the interest-based issuance of money is so corrupt and such a slave system. Why fiat money, just the dollar itself, not being tied to anything, not being backed by anything, is such a corrupt system. And I made this channel to help all of my friends and family, and some have come around, but there are a lot of my family and my friends that, despite these videos that I put out, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, So inflating the dollar, getting back to, why we don't want to print a bunch of money to, buy Bitcoin. That's inflation, guys. That's inflationary to the dollar, for one. So it's going to hurt your family members and your friends that haven't gotten in. So we didn't want that, which is good. That's not what this Bitcoin reserve is. Two, if that were the case, and that's how they were going to fund this national reserve, we would have such major opposition to it. It would be so contentious that, a lot of people, I would probably say more than 50% of the people would not support that kind of thing. So this is much less controversial. So they're not gonna use, inflated dollar, like printing, to fund this, but they are going to buy more Bitcoin. A lot of people on Twitter last night got on, and the initial reaction, that $5,000 dump, was three different things, in my opinion. One, judging by the reaction on Twitter, a lot of people were saying and still, actually, even today, are still saying, haha, I told you so. I told you the government would never buy Bitcoin, because in this, there's a second section where they say they're not going to buy any more digital assets. That's for the digital asset stockpile, which holds whatever other confiscated cryptos, probably Solana, probably XRP, probably Cardano, like Trump announced last Sunday. If you didn't see that, that was a whole nother news that happened since my last video. And maybe we'll get into that. But all of the other crypto outside of Bitcoin that the government already owns through confiscation is going into this other stockpile. And under that, it says that they are not going to buy any more altcoins. And I think that's wise. I think Bitcoin is the only one we really want as a national reserve. And that I'm not a maxi. I see plenty of value in decentralized finance like Ethereum and Solana. XRP is a different monster. XRP is kind of a centralized cross-border banking tool. A lot of people, if you're into XRP, that's fine. It's just a banking tool, and I'm not for the banks. So it's not my thing. I'm sure it'll do fine. But guys, the point here is that they're not going to be buying any more of these altcoins. They're actively looking to buy Bitcoin, but the reaction on Twitter, even today from some people, is that they're not going to buy Bitcoin. And that was the reason to sell off. And I just literally laughing to myself last night when I'm seeing this, because this is the absolute dumbest time to be selling Bitcoin. Even if they said that they weren't going to buy any more Bitcoin, the fact that they made a Bitcoin national reserve and they're holding, first of all, it takes 1% of all Bitcoin right now off the table to be sold by the government. That's never, and in this executive order, it says, so it says right here, government Bitcoin deposited into strategic Bitcoin. Let's go over here so you can see this. Government Bitcoin deposited into the strategic Bitcoin reserve shall not be sold. Period. So this is even better than Lummis's bill in a way. Lummis, Cynthia Lummis has a bill on the floor for a Bitcoin strategic national reserve that says they'll buy a million more Bitcoin over a period of time, and they won't sell for 20 years. This doesn't say how much they'll buy, but it says that they will not sell. Period. Okay. So people on Twitter are freaking out. Obviously that's reflected in the price action, because we fell so quickly and so massively right after this came out. And it's ongoing. Even today, I got on and watched a few of the YouTubers that I like. And one of them this morning, or actually this was last night after the reserve was announced, the one guy, he said, they can buy more, but they have to do so with budget neutral funds. And he said, and I don't know how they're going to do that. That's going to be really hard. And I'm shaking, I'm face palming, going, no, it's not. No, it's not. it is not going to be hard for these guys to pull the cushions off the government's couch and find a bunch of coins to be putting into Bitcoin. Now, I do want to jump over to this tweet right here, because this will start kind of giving you an idea. Now it says, I will read it for you all. Budget neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin. They've got $39 billion of exchange stabilization fund. That's a budget neutral way. They've got $160 billion from selling SDRs. They've got $800 billion from gold certificate reevaluation. Now that is, if they were to audit Fort Knox and find out how much gold they have and revalue, they don't even have to sell the gold here, guys. If they revalue the gold that they hopefully own, if they revalue that to today's prices, it's nearly $3,000 an ounce of gold right now. On the books for the government, gold right now is valued at $40.22. So if they revalue the gold that they own, they can then borrow against that. All they have to do is revalue it, and then they can instantly borrow against that and buy Bitcoin that way. That's a budget neutral way. And then they've got 1 trillion budget neutral Bitcoin buys through these three things. Now that's a short list of ways that they can buy budget neutral Bitcoins. They can also, guys, remember, as I was saying, Howard Lutnick and Steve Besant are also in charge of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So how they fund the Sovereign Wealth Fund is a different conversation. I don't know how they're going to do that. But if this Sovereign Wealth Fund starts trading anything, they don't even need to buy Bitcoin now. If they start trading stocks and making profit that way, they can take every cent of that profit, and that is budget neutral profit that they can then roll into this Bitcoin National Reserve. There's that. They can actually do what Cynthia Lummis has been saying, and we should sell some of our gold and buy digital gold. It's easier to store. It's more secure. It's easier to send. It's better than gold in every way that digital is better than analog. So we can do that. That's a budget neutral way that we could buy more Bitcoin, is selling gold. You guys might not know this, but we have a national stockpile of cheese. Cheese, guys. We have billions, if not trillions, and I should have looked this up before, but we have a lot of, we've got a storage that was built into a limestone mountain or something, where they store this government cheese, guys. This is where the term government cheese comes from, because it's basically, this stockpile of cheese is basically a handout to the dairy industry. It's a subsidy because, this is absolute, in my opinion, this is garbage, because it's basically, they've bought a bunch of product that's not needed to line the dairy industry's pockets. But it's out there. I say, sell all that cheese, crash the cheese market, and you guys can have cheaper cheese. And we fund the Bitcoin National Reserve with that. There's several things that we hold right now that we could sell and have budget neutral funds for Bitcoin. We could also, now this gets into a tweet that I saw from Michael Saylor last night after this happened. It's, Michael Saylor got on Twitter and said, The government wants to buy more Bitcoin with budget neutral funds. Oh, by the way, MicroStrategy has a few ways that you could probably do that. Wink, wink. Like they literally have 200,000. The government has 200,000 Bitcoin that is going into this reserve right now. That's the confiscated Bitcoin that they have right now that they're putting into this reserve. So they have 200,000 Bitcoin that they could theoretically issue Bitcoin on and borrow against that Bitcoin that they already own to fund more Bitcoin buys. It's exactly what MicroStrategy has been doing for 4 or 5 years now. And those guys have taken a failing business and turned it into a over like 10 or 14 billion-dollar business now from a failing business, just from buying and borrowing against and buying and borrowing against Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor says, I've got a few ideas for you. And oh, by the way, yeah, I'll be at the crypto summit at the White House today. So that's another huge way that these guys can buy Bitcoin. And yet everybody on Twitter, well, not everybody, obviously, but a lot of people and enough people to crash the market down are saying they're not going to buy Bitcoin, and we're so bit disappointed. Wow. And selling at the worst possible time in maybe Bitcoin's history. I don't think it's ever advisable to sell Bitcoin personally, but I mean, you got to do you. Everybody's different, but this is complete stupidity to be selling this market right now. So that was one way, one reason why the markets crashed last night. The other reason was that market makers and exchanges wanted to crash the market and liquidate leveraged longs, because I guarantee these guys know that we are not going to be hanging around this price action for very long. And if we start shooting up and there's a bunch of longs, leveraged longs down below, that's kind of a liability to their business. So they're going to try and liquidate as many as these longs that they can before we start taking off on this Bitcoin National Reserve absolute nation race that is going to happen because of this. So this is another tweet in from Watcher Guru. It says, just in, $225 million was liquidated from cryptocurrency market in the past 60 minutes. This was 1 hour after the Bitcoin National Reserve was announced. So a lot of leverage was flushed out. If we jump over to the heat map, you can actually see that right here. This is when the reserve was announced, and we fell down $5,000 within 10 minutes. And we liquidated this big chunk of, nothing's yellow down here, but this is a big chunk of leveraged longs that the exchanges and the market makers had a lot of motivation to liquidate. So we've got people who didn't read the executive order, or just plain can't understand it, or have a hard time understanding what it is. But you've also got, this big money that wanted to liquidate all of this. So those are some of the reasons why the market actually tanked last night, right on the news. Now, throughout the night, you can see we climbed up, basically to where we were before that crash. And now just recently, let's actually refresh this. We did crash back down a little bit to like 87,000. Looks like we're climbing back up now. But as you can see, oh, this is actually the 24. We came back out to the 24. I was in the weekly. As you can see, we had people piling in right here on these leveraged long positions. And if the exchanges and these market makers can avoid that, guys, they are going to continue to liquidate all of these longs. So stop. If you are trading on leverage and going leverage long, I'm telling you, you are playing a rigged game. Stop doing it. Stop giving these guys a reason to suppress this Bitcoin price. If you're going to be long, buy spot and hold. Otherwise, you run a very good risk of losing your money. In 2 years, you're going to look back and you're going to go, well, with those with the Bitcoin that I could have bought back then and instead played leverage and was liquidated, man, if I only had that in Bitcoin right now, I'd be a millionaire. You're playing a rigged game and you're going to lose and you're going to regret it massively in the future. Stop with the leverage, guys. This is how you screw this up. But as you can see, we've got a big chunk of shorts right at 95,000 that we'll be liquidating those guys here very soon, in my opinion. Okay, so yeah, we did have that. I do want to jump over to this last tweet here, guys. This is from Scott Melker, the Wolf of All Streets. But he actually retweeted a comment that David Sachs made. And he says that the initial overreaction is orchestrated. It should be called the initial hoax. And then Scott Melker says, the executive order is perfect. Different tribes will disagree on the nuance, but the order delivers everything promised and more. And I can't agree. I can't disagree. I can't agree with that more. It is absolutely perfect. You guys got to go read that executive order. It is, once you understand it, guys, this is a major point in Bitcoin's history. I got on the phone. Sorry. I got on the phone last night with Andy, who's been on the show before, and we kind of talked through this on like, what's going on? Is it good? Is it bad? You know, we kind of walked through everything. And I said, remember when you were on the show a year ago and I posed the question, what is it that will take Bitcoin from trading like a risk on asset to trading like a risk off asset? Now, if you understand what that means, risk on, it's volatile and it does well in times of good economics and very certain markets. On the other hand, if it trades as a risk off, this is where we get into that flight to safety narrative that Larry Fink has been really pushing. You should buy Bitcoin because the future is uncertain. You maybe don't trust the Federal Reserve. And this is the core of Bitcoin's beliefs. So if you really understand Bitcoin, you will buy and hold Bitcoin like it is a risk off asset. It will do better in the future, no matter what. It's kind of what gold has been for 5,000 years. So I posed that question a year ago, and Andy said, Taylor Swift coming into and using NFTs for ticketing or whatever it may be, that'll take us from being, and I kind of agreed back then. I was like, yeah, that might do it. But guys, this is it. If we don't go from risk off to from risk on to risk off on this kind of news, I don't know what will take Bitcoin to risk off. We've got the largest economic power in the world saying in the executive order that Bitcoin is digital gold, that it is an excellent store of value, that we've lost $17 billion over the past because we sold our Bitcoin, and that they're going to buy more. So guys, this is going to open up the floodgates to literally every other nation in the world. There's been reports just today that China is scrambling and having meetings today because of this news. Okay, so the floodgates are open now, guys. There are going to be countries that, now that the US has put it on their balance sheet, that they are holding and not going to sell and buying more. This opens the door to every other government and every other central bank in the world. And I don't think most people really understand the implications of that. That is massive. We also had Texas yesterday. That Texas is, I believe, the 9th largest economy in the world, like including other nations. Texas is the 9th largest economy in the world, and they just passed their Texas state Bitcoin reserve through their Senate. Now it has to go to the House, but that is widely accepted that will pass pretty quickly through their House, and then it goes to the governor's desk for signing, all of which are expected to happen. But guys, this happened on the same day, the same exact day that our nation adopted a Bitcoin reserve. So like I said, guys, it's going to be an arms race. Cynthia Lummis kind of coined that it is going to be an arms race for Bitcoin now. Nations are going to be trying to the smart nations will make it happen fast. They'll rush in as quick as they can to try and get in before everybody else. It's game theory now with Bitcoin and nation states. That said, it's not going to happen fast in Bitcoin time. One day seems like a year for Bitcoiners, and that is easily seen with sentiment. 1 week of sidewaysness feels like an eternity in Bitcoin time. So it's not going to be, an instant, like we're going to be at $250,000 today, which I've seen that kind of prediction on Twitter the last 24 hours as well. Don't expect that, guys. But keep yourself rational. This is not a time to be selling. Last night, it's funny because last night was the first time Bitcoin dropped so massively, and I'm looking at my phone laughing sincerely because this takes away a lot of the fear I had. with even an economic downturn or a recession. This takes a lot of my fear about that away, which, speaking of which, let's get into some of the other news that happened this week. A lot of uncertainty is still going forward in all markets because Trump, again, we saw that Trump last month came out with these tariffs, and then the next day said, okay, well, maybe we'll put it all on pause for 30 days. Well, just Tuesday, that 30 days was up and tariffs went into effect. And guess what? Within a day, he said, okay, well, we're gonna pause until April 6th. So we're on pause again for another 30 days or so. It's just this back and forth. Again, if they did something like that with the Bitcoin reserve, that would be an absolute failure. Just complete uncertainty in the markets right now. But that is, because we have this solid national reserve, it takes Bitcoin even further out of an economic downturn affecting this thing. And that's how huge this news is. And nobody seemingly really gets that. But we do have the crypto summit that's happening today. Hopefully there's some even more bullish speculation that we might get tax revisions for crypto, which would be probably really good. Fingers crossed that the government doesn't screw something like that up. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. We'll see what Michael Saylor, if he has any influence on the summit today. Should be exciting. God, what else? I feel like I was trying to make a point there and I kind of got sidetracked, but yeah, this is not a time to be selling, guys. The one, I will say this, the one bad thing about this, and this is actually pretty sad, is that this is the moment. This is the moment where if you're not in now, I really, really feel for you. It goes back to, why I started this channel, to get people in, because I saw what was happening with the ETFs. And I thought it was so important to get this information out so that everyday working class people could get into Bitcoin, could have the right information and get into Bitcoin and front run big institutions and Wall Street. And if you're not in now, I really feel for you. That's the downside to this, is that time is up. You're not going to be able to front run big corporations. You're not going to be able to front run big governments anymore. So that's the sad side of it. That said, is it ever a bad time to buy Bitcoin, even if you can't front run governments, even if you don't make life-changing wealth from Bitcoin? No. Adoption will continue to rise. And Bitcoin, guys, you got to remember what fundamentals of Bitcoin actually are, what it actually does. It saves you from that fiat system. It saves you from 2% inflation, theft, from money printers. It saves you from the issuance of money on a interest-based system, which is absolute economic slavery. So it will never be bad, even if you can't make money from Bitcoin. It will never be a bad idea to get into Bitcoin because it absolutely saves you from an absolutely corrupt system. It cuts out all kinds of middlemen. So I say it's a sad time because, you know, time is kind of pretty much up. You know, once all of these guys get in, you probably won't be, you're going to be late to the party, basically. But there's always going to be a benefit to having Bitcoin. So it's never a bad time to buy. It's absolutely the dumbest time to be selling. And that tells me, you know, all I need to know. Like, I have never felt so secure in continuing to hold this thing. And I think everybody should feel that way. So if you're not positive on Bitcoin, even after dumping 30% off our all-time highs, now, I don't know what to tell you. We've also got global liquidity increasing, and Bitcoin price seems to lag about 10 weeks, I believe, after that. So we've seen global liquidity take a dive and turn up again. And Bitcoin, if you guys want to watch video of this, go check out Raoul Pal. He did a video just 6 or 7 days ago, and he shows the charts on this, and it's absolutely reassuring. We should be pumping just on global liquidity because very soon, not right away, but very soon we should be following that trend. Yeah, that's very reassuring as well. So go out and check that out. Search him on YouTube. He's got an excellent video about that. But guys, I just don't see any downside right now. Even if we go into a recession, I think we're well shielded with Bitcoin now and crypto. So happy Bitcoin Reserve Day. Let's keep our eyes out on this crypto summit. Hopefully we get some more good news. I'm not expecting it, but always welcome. It might just be a big, I don't know, circle jerk or, party like the crypto inauguration ball. Nothing really came out of that either. So it might very possibly be a big nothing burger, but hopefully we get some more good news out of there. That's about all I have for you guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the Bitcoin Reserve. If there's something I'm missing that you think is super bearish about it, let me know, because I do not see it. If you're excited about it, let me know that too as well. And until next time, guys, just hang in there and I will see you in the next video. Bye.